Welcome back, deep divers. Today, we're diving into something that's got everyone talking,
Oh, yeah.
the Baldoni Lively lawsuit. And you know what? At first glance, it might just seem like another Hollywood scandal, the kind we always hear about.
Right.
But we've got a bunch of different sources for this one. We've got video commentaries, we've got social media posts,
Yeah.
and it all paints a very different picture, a picture that goes way beyond just the entertainment industry. This is about power dynamics, manipulation. It might even make you think about those things on a global scale,
Yeah.
by the time we're done.
Yeah, absolutely. See, this case is really interesting because it's not just about celebrity gossip. It's about something much bigger. It's about like this feeling a lot of us have these days that we can't really trust the people in charge, the institutions they're running. It really makes you think like how much of what we're being told is actually true?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, okay, for anyone who hasn't been following this whole saga, let's just get everyone on the same page. Justin Baldoni, you know him from 5 Feet Apart,
Right.
filed a lawsuit against Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds,
Big names.
big names, alleging that during the making of their film, It Ends With Us, there was a whole lot of bullying going on, manipulation, attempts to damage his reputation.
And what really gets me about this case is how it shows you how dark things can get behind this like perfectly crafted public image. I mean, Lively and Reynolds, they're always showing up in the media as this like, perfect couple, relatable, down to earth. But then Baldoni's lawsuit comes out and it's like, bam, totally different story.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, for example, in the lawsuit, Baldoni claims that they, Lively and Reynolds, were mocking scenes from his past work, especially those Deadpool films.
Mhm.
Like they were trying to undermine him as an actor and director.
And think about the power dynamics in that situation, right? Lively and Reynolds, they've got all this star power, all this influence, and they're allegedly using that to put down a colleague, to marginalize him. Makes you wonder, like, how often does this kind of thing happen in Hollywood? People at the top using their power like that.
It's like Mean Girls,
Yeah.
but with like way higher stakes.
Exactly. And then it gets even crazier when you bring Taylor Swift into the picture.
Taylor Swift. Okay, now things are getting really interesting.
Right.
I mean, she's publicly been on Lively's side, denying any involvement in whatever happened to Baldoni. But then you've got these sources close to Swift, and they're saying something a little bit different.
Yeah, so some reports are saying that even though Swift may not have been directly involved in the bullying, she was definitely there at meetings where they were praising Lively's changes to the script and just dismissing anything Baldoni had to say.
I read an article where a source called Swift's approach more subtle compared to Lively, who was, quote, full throttle. What do you think that means?
Subtle. Well, to me, that says she was being more calculated, strategic. Maybe Swift, with her whole nice girl image and being portrayed as a victim so often, she thought she could sway things without being outwardly aggressive.
Wow, that's a really interesting take. Like maybe there were different layers of manipulation happening behind the scenes.
Right.
And it sounds like Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman, thinks so too. He's hinted that getting Swift to testify could be a game changer for their case.
Oh, for sure. To get Swift to testify, that would be huge. Could uncover some pretty damaging stuff about her involvement, and that could really hurt her image, that carefully crafted image.
Exactly. And speaking of legal battles heating up, things just took another turn. Lively's facing a defamation lawsuit now, filed by the crisis PR firm Street Relations, Inc.
Whoa. Really?
Yeah. So Lively initially named them as a defendant in her civil rights complaint, accusing them of orchestrating this whole smear campaign against her. But then, get this, just 11 days later, when she filed the actual lawsuit in court, Street Relations was suddenly gone from the list of defendants.
So what happened there?
Well, Street Relations is saying Lively's initial accusations were completely baseless, that they damaged their reputation, and that she had no evidence to back up her claims.
Oh, so they're saying she just used them as a scapegoat.
Basically, like she was trying to control the narrative.
And this is where it gets really interesting for anyone who's ever felt like they've been manipulated or misrepresented. Because if Lively's accusations against Street Relations are proven false, it's like, wow, she's willing to bend the truth to protect her image, to shift the blame.
And it kind of makes you think, are we seeing a bigger trend here? Powerful people using their influence to shape the story, to silence anyone who disagrees.
It's a scary thought, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to switch gears a bit. Let's talk about Candace Owens and what she has to say about all of this.
Hmm.
Now, Owens, she's known for her conservative commentary, right? But what's interesting is that her coverage of this whole Baldoni Lively case has actually brought people together from all sides of the political spectrum. Like, they're finding common ground in their concern about this, like abuse of power, the manipulation.
What's really striking is that Owens isn't afraid to speak her mind, even when it causes controversy. Like, she even addresses the accusations of anti-Semitism that were thrown at her just for questioning the whole narrative around the Gaza Strip situation.
Yeah, and it seems like that willingness to speak her truth, even if it ruffles some feathers, is part of why so many people connect with her. It's like they're tired of feeling like they can't question anything.
Yeah, it's like she's tapping into this need for authenticity, for people to just say what they really think, even if it means challenging those in power.
All right, so let's hear what Owens has to say about the Baldoni Lively situation. In this clip from her commentary, she talks about how angry she is about how Baldoni was treated, but also how impressed she is by his restraint, his composure in the face of all this adversity.
Okay, let's hear it. Yeah, it's a powerful clip for sure.
And Owens makes a really strong point about why this is actually important. It's not just some silly Hollywood drama.
Right.
It's about recognizing these patterns of manipulation. It can happen in Hollywood, it can happen in politics, it can happen anywhere, really.
Yeah, and what I find really interesting is how she compares the language used in both these situations. Like, she's saying that Trump, just like Lively and Reynolds, tries to frame his actions in a way that downplays any harm and really pushes those benefits.
So, like with Trump's proposal for Gaza, he uses terms like economic development and relocation.
Right.
But Owens is saying that those words are just covering up something much darker, something much more troubling, the forced displacement of an entire population.
Exactly. It's like classic textbook euphemisms, right? Using these nice-sounding words to sugarcoat something that's actually pretty unethical.
Yeah.
And Owens, having gone through those accusations of anti-Semitism herself, she knows how dangerous that kind of rhetoric can be.
And she even makes a direct connection, right, between how she was labeled for just asking questions about the Gaza Strip and how Baldoni's being painted as this, disgruntled employee who's just out for revenge.
It's like they're trying to shut down anyone who dares to question the official story.
Exactly.
And I think that's where Owen's personal experience really adds something to her analysis. She's been there. She's felt the heat when you challenge the accepted narrative.
And this brings us to something really crucial. Owens is willing to break with her own political allies and criticize Trump's proposal, even calling it a perfect act of evil and comparing it to historical examples of ethnic cleansing.
Wow.
It's a bold move.
It really is. And it makes you realize that, she's putting her principles above any political party. She's not afraid to stand up for what she believes in, even when it means going against the people she normally sides with.
It's like she's saying, look, I'm not blindly following anyone. I'm thinking for myself.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people are hungry for that kind of authenticity these days. They're tired of the partisan fighting, the pressure to always pick a side.
They want leaders who are willing to tell the truth, even when it's tough.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's take a closer look at Trump's proposal here. He's saying that the U.S. should just take over the Gaza Strip, relocate the Palestinian residents, and basically oversee the economic development of the whole area. It's caused quite a stir.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this proposal brings up a whole bunch of complicated issues. Legality, potential for more conflict, the moral implications of displacing so many people. It's a lot to unpack.
And Owens tackles all of that head on. She's not holding back. She says Trump's plan is not just impractical, it's straight up immoral. Palestinians have the right to self-determination, she argues, and the U.S. shouldn't be dictating their future.
And it's interesting, she even questions the economic justifications for this whole takeover. Like when Trump talks about real estate value, Owens is like, hold on a second, what's really going on here? It makes you wonder if there are ulterior motives at play.
Like, don't be fooled by the shiny promises, right?
Right.
There's a whole other agenda hidden beneath the surface.
And this takes us right back to the core of what we're talking about today, manipulation, hidden agendas. Owens is telling us, be critical thinkers. Don't just believe everything you hear. Question the motives, ask who benefits from this.
And she's drawing a direct line between the Baldoni Lively case and this geopolitical situation. Like, she's saying that the same tactics used to control a narrative on a movie set that can be scaled up, used to manipulate public opinion on a global stage.
It's kind of a scary thought, isn't it?
It is. It really underscores how important it is to be media literate, to think critically about the information that's constantly thrown at us.
We got to figure out what's true, what's spin, and what's just straight up manipulation.
And I think Owens offers some really valuable tools for doing that.
Yeah.
Be skeptical of those in power, question their motives, look beyond the surface level explanations.
She's reminding us that we have a responsibility to call out injustice, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it means disagreeing with people we usually agree with.
So as we continue this deep dive, let's keep Owens' insights in mind. Let's pay attention to the language being used, the stories being spun, and the potential for manipulation everywhere, not just in Hollywood. You know, it's funny, isn't it? We go through life trusting these narratives, especially when they come from people we think are, trustworthy, reliable sources.
It's almost like we've been conditioned to just accept things at face value.
Right.
Especially when it's coming from institutions or authority figures.
Like we assume they have our best interests in mind.
Yeah, but then what happens when that trust gets broken?
Ooh, good question.
What happens when we realize that, maybe they're not so trustworthy after all? What if they're using their power for their own personal gain or to push agendas that, might not actually be good for us?
It's like that moment when you see how the magician does the trick.
Yep.
And suddenly the magic is gone. The illusion's shattered.
Yeah, you see those strings being pulled and you can't help but think, wait, what else have I been fooled by?
Exactly. And that can be a really uncomfortable feeling.
Oh, absolutely. Disillusioning.
But you know what? It can also be empowering.
How so?
Because once you start questioning those narratives, once you stop just blindly accepting what you're told, it opens up a whole new way of seeing things.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You start to consider different perspectives, maybe come up with alternative explanations.
And start thinking for yourself.
Exactly.
So the big question is, how do we do that? How do we become more critical thinkers? How do we filter all the information that's constantly coming at us, especially in today's world?
I think the first step is recognizing that, no source of information is ever truly neutral. Everyone's got a perspective, an agenda, a bias. It's just how it is.
Okay, so it's not about being completely distrusting of everything.
No, not at all.
It's more about being aware.
Right, aware of those biases. So instead of just swallowing what we're told, we got to ask ourselves, who's saying this? Why are they saying it? What are they leaving out?
Love that. It's like being a detective,
Oh, totally.
gathering the evidence, analyzing the clues,
Yeah.
figuring out the truth.
Exactly. And just like a good detective, we got to be open to the possibility that, things might not be as simple as they seem.
The truth is often more complicated, right? More nuanced.
Absolutely.
Okay, before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to play one last clip from Candace Owens. In this one, she talks about how important it is to trust your gut, to speak your truth, even when it feels like everyone else is against you.
Let's hear it.
Such a powerful message, right? Like we all have this inner compass,
Yeah.
this sense of right and wrong. And sometimes we just need to trust that voice, even when it's hard, even when it feels like we're swimming upstream.
It takes guts to stand up for what you believe in, especially when you're facing pushback.
Oh, yeah. But like Owen said, those moments of dissent, that's where we find our real strength, our authentic selves. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Hollywood scandals, political maneuvering, and the power of critical thinking, I want to leave you with a few questions to chew on. What narratives have you accepted without question? What assumptions have you been making? And are you ready to embark on that journey of seeking your own truth, even if it means questioning everything you thought you knew?
Because that journey, even though it might be winding and unpredictable, it's a journey worth taking. And sometimes, as we saw today, the most unexpected connections can lead to the most amazing insights. So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking that truth.